man, that was long time and no see, right? Couple of minutes there. Welcome to the 8 p.m. block of the Big Ten Live Show. My name's John Diadamo. I'm going to be your host for the next 2 hours or so. And really, that was a fun conversation that we just had with the great Corey Bratta, who did a fantastic job on the 6 to 8 block. And I said to Corey, you know, just bring me in when you're ready, man. This is a great conversation. So keep it going as long as you want. But here we are. We are going to do calls again, but I did want to start with a few quick topics because there was a lot of welcome, Cheryl. Yes, friend of the program, longtime moderator since the very beginning of Mark Rogers. Cheryl is here. We always love when Cheryl stops by. So a couple of things. So there was a big conversation with a friend of the program, Chris Foote, and Corey earlier today on name, image, and likeness. So I wanted to give everybody a little primer on name, image, and likeness for about 2 minutes. So basically what happened a few years ago, the NCAA ruled that players, student athletes, can be compensated on exactly that: their name, their image, their likeness. So for example, jerseys, paraphernalia, the college football video game that's coming out in like a couple of months, things like that, student athletes can now get compensated. Companies can sponsor, like JJ McCarthy has that Dunkin' Donuts deal. He has his very own menu item at Dunkin' Donuts. So companies can do sponsorship and endorsement deals with players as long as there's not a pay-for-play aspect where there's nothing in the contract saying that they have to play at the school. Now, we've seen contracts that have gotten around that by saying they have to have a residence in the town or the city or whatever. But where does the money come from was the question. It comes from business partnerships. It comes from collectives, aka groups where a bunch of donors can pool money together to support players and maybe have like tailgates and events like that, item sales and all of that good stuff. And so, you know, when you ask where the money comes from, you know, just do a Google search and you'll be able and go to your school and NIL, and you'll be able to find all the collectives. You'll be able to find whatever the business exchange is that they're using. And so where the money comes from, those are the key sources, right? And so are there guardrails? Yes, but it does kind of feel like the wild, wild west at times. And so I'm sure there's going to be some more guardrails put in the near future. But I just wanted to do that for a minute because there was a question about, you know, what is NIL? Where does it come from? All of that stuff. We are going to have on the Michigan show Wednesday at 5, we're going to have a special guest, Reese Kurtula from who's actually the co-founder of one of Michigan's NIL collectives. So the co-founder of MGoDAO, one of the officially endorsed collectives at the University of Michigan. He's going to be on the show with Mark and Dre and myself at 5 p.m. and we're very excited to have him come by. Okay. I saw some no sound commentary. Let me know if you can hear the sound. It does look like it's coming through my mic. I've tested it. It looks like it's working. Yes. So Valiant is yes, they're doing a great job. There's also, you've got the Victors. You've got the Victors Business Exchange. The One More Year Fund was a Valiant initiative as well. So yeah, they're doing a great job. So check it out Wednesday at 5 if you want to learn more about that. We have a very interesting situation going on in college football in the Big Ten right now with the recruiting battle that has taken place the last few weeks. And it has gone back and forth to the point where just yesterday, I believe, Ohio State signed their guy, 4-star quarterback Aaron Noland, who had just had an unofficial visit to Alabama a few days prior to the signing. So he had an unofficial. So he went, he saw the program and decided to go with Ohio State. Aaron Noland is a very highly ranked quarterback, right? 6'3", 195 pounds, four ranked on the on three, not on four. 24/7 is number 7 ranked and had more than 4,000 passing yards and a 73% completion. Very similar to Jaden Davis in completion percentage. They also just signed 5-star wide receiver Mylan Graham. So they have now struck some blood in exchange for the Jaden Davis and some of the 4-star players that Michigan has brought in. So on the Michigan side, on Friday, Michigan signed 4-star offensive lineman Andrew Sprague, who was rumored to be going to the University of Michigan, 95% likely, and finally decided to commit to Michigan on Friday. Jaden Davis is working the phones. He's calling players. He's trying to poach players from other universities. And this is really a all-out recruiting battle between the two. Right now on this is the 247 Sports rankings. Georgia's number 1. Michigan is number 2. LSU and Ohio State are like battling. They're only about a point away from each other. This is pretty reflective of what we saw, other than LSU. It's pretty reflective of what we saw in the playoff, right? So we're, unlike last year, we're actually seeing the recruiting rankings reflect the results that have been happening on the field and the final rankings. This makes a lot more sense to me than last year. Yeah, we need some more 5s. Yeah, Michigan needs more 5-stars. And look, I misspoke a little bit ago. I know Ohio State's brought in 5-star running backs too. I'm just saying that. So when I said that before, so Michigan has a tendency of bringing in better running backs in terms of the ability of what they've done the last couple of months. Especially, you've been able to poach a 4-star running back away from Ohio and an Ohio State player that they really wanted. So the tide is starting to turn in all these areas. But when it comes to wide receiver talent, nobody's arguing that Ohio State has been the top in wide receiver recruiting. And I'd say USC is probably going to get up there pretty quickly because of what they're able to do with their kind of air it out offense of Lincoln Riley. I also think that Tennessee is going to start bringing in some top wide receiver talent even more because of how Heupel runs his offense. But those two are, so it's a battle. And, normally it's not. Okay, the last 10 years, Ohio State has absolutely destroyed Michigan in recruiting a lot of those years. Now, Brady Hoke had some good years, and Jim Harbaugh had a couple, but Jim Harbaugh also had some number 15 classes and 18 classes, whereas Ohio State has kind of consistently been a top 5 to 10 recruiting program. And so this is a battle that's going to continue. Jaden Davis is going to bring some 4-star players in the next couple of weeks. Here's some of them: Channing Goodwin, Jordan Shipp, and Amarian Stewart. All 3, I think, are coming to Michigan. The first 2 are Providence Day players, so they play with Jaden Davis. So on the line, we have Erica Goldberg back, friend of the program, and was just on and kind of we had a little Iowa at the Voice of College Football segment, and now Erica's back on to talk to me. Hey, Erica.
Hello. I'm just hoping that Husker D calls in because they keep trying to get my attention and chat, and I don't know why they don't want to talk to me.
Well, this is the thing. A lot of people like to hide in the chat.
Yeah.
And they talk their talk, but they don't want to come on into the ring. And
it's more about talk. It's just like talking the talk and not walking the walk. I guess that's what's happening.
And we've tried to get people who comment. That's the best, is when people make comments in the comment sections, and we tell them, call in. If you have a bone to pick, call the show. We'll talk to you.
Yeah.
And very rarely do. And Mark has the same problem. We rarely have anybody take us up on that. But
yeah, they keep telling me that like I eat corn the wrong way or something. I mean, I don't understand. I don't know why they're obsessed with corn. I mean, maybe I should know. I mean, they are from Nebraska, I guess, but
Yeah, absolutely.
But anyway, to go to more fun topics.
Yes.
trying to think what we should talk about. We've already said a lot about Iowa tonight, so I don't think I have any more of an update.
Well, Iowa. I mean, I was starting to make the point about Iowa that that your schedule. I think your defense alone and special teams can win you 9 to 10 games with very little help or interference or however you want to phrase it with Brian Ferentz. But if Brian just has like I've said before, if Cade is allowed to bring in elements of the Michigan offense, and by that I mean the later version, the Stanford-esque run it and tight end passes and things like that, then I think there's a possibility of even 11 or even 12 wins if Brian Ferentz can just take a nice backseat, sit on the bench. Let Cade McNamara and Spencer Petras as assistant quarterback coach do their thing, and Eric Gall is obviously very familiar, and just start bringing in elements because it's not that different in concept to some of what you guys have been running the last couple of years.
Yeah.
And Cade knows how to throw to tight ends.
Yeah.
So
no, I agree with you. I would like to see him, kind of take over a little bit and maybe not listen to every single call that Brian makes, because some of those calls are just like not even going for it on fourth down when it's like a few yards. I mean, that's bogus. That's no excuse for that. They should at least try.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like this, Corey made an interesting point, and I finally got to have a couple of minutes with Corey. That made me very happy. Been hoping for that for a minute, and he did a great job on the show. The first block. So definitely check him out at Hawkeye at the Storm, and Erica, you're always over there, and on the Iowa show. Yeah. But he made a great point about that this could be the last. That this might even be a year where Kirk Ferentz goes out on a high note, and has a 10, 11, 12 win regular season.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not 100% convinced if Kirk's going to leave after this coming season. I don't know. I mean, I think it's definitely possible, especially if Brian doesn't perform up to par and he ends up getting, let go and all this. I think definitely if Brian goes, Kirk goes too. But let's see. So Tim Armstrong says Iowa needs a better running back and they could be quite good this year. Has Tim watched Iowa football? Like, we have a good running back already.
Caleb Johnson.
We have a good running back. I don't know what we didn't have was a good quarterback who knew how to do things properly, so he didn't get his, fully showcased like he probably should have. But we already have a good running back, and they actually are usually recruit decently at running back too. I mean, we have a few good names in there, so I don't think running back's the problem. I think quarterback was the main problem, and also the wide receivers not being used and or not being up to par is another problem. I don't think running back's a problem.
Hey, we got George. George is here.
Oh my God, it's been a minute.
Hey, George. Feel free to call in, man. We love having you. Hopefully everything is good with you and working and everything else that I know that you're always busy doing, but we're really glad that you stopped by, man. So he's a longtime friend of the show and is, always brings a smile to my face when he shows up.
Oh, Hair Trigger agrees with me. I didn't even have to say anything because Hair Trigger has me in the chat. Caleb Johnson was a true freshman running back, had a 5.5 average behind Iowa's horrible line. I can't remember how many yards he ran last season, but I know he had a few breakout games towards the end, and he looked really good.
Yeah, and again, horrible line is a good way to put, the fact that he probably could have done a lot more with a stronger line, which to Kirk's credit, he is working on that at least.
Yeah.
Ryan's back, so I'm going to bring Ryan back in.
Hey, Ryan.
Hey, Ryan.
Hey. Long time no talk, guys.
I know, right? We're continuing on the Iowa discussion. So, about Caleb Johnson and some of what he might be able to do with a better offensive line, kind of in 2023.
You put Ryan, Iowa fan, on the thing here.
Oh, what are you a fan of?
Well, obviously, I live in Illinois, so I'm kidding,
Okay.
kidding.
He is an Iowa fan. Don't let
Okay,
him fool
I
you.
got it right. Okay,
You got it
good.
right.
Black
We
and
both live in
gold all
Illinois.
the way, brother.
I was gonna say it sounded like you were an Iowa fan from the last call.
I was just messing with you, sir.
Look
Hey,
at what
thanks
he's
for-
wearing too.
Oh yeah, duh. There you go. Well, but I got it. I forget who. Somebody I thought was a Nebraska fan, but actually was a Penn State fan. But they called in and talked Nebraska. So occasionally, it happens.
Ouch.
But I'm glad you're back.
Thinking
And
of Penn State fan,
you know,
and Nebraska fan.
quick
My goodness.
funny story. Quick funny story. So I'm very close friends with my boss, and he's got this big calendar behind his desk, where he writes any notes for the day, or if any of his employees are taking off or anything like that. I walk in there, and I just profusely tell him I am so sorry. And he's like, what's wrong? And I'm like, your calendar. He's a big Husker fan.
Oh.
And I'm like, your calendar. And he's like, what's wrong with my calendar? I go, it's 2003, not 1994.
Yeah, I can see you feel the same way about Nebraska as me, who are obsessed with their wins last century. It cracks me up every time. They act like they're this, fantastic football team, which they were back in the day, but they haven't done a darn thing since they got to the Big Ten, and that's just facts.
They haven't. To this man's credit, the morning of the national championship game for women's basketball, he texted me at about noon and said, Caitlin Clark had 15 points before she even got out of bed. So he's an awesome guy. He did tell me he wishes he had Iowa's program right now versus what they've had, even though, they kind of swept us this year in men's basketball and football. Just to kind of talk about Iowa just a little bit with a Michigan guy.
Hey, love it.
And I hope Jim Harbaugh didn't lose his hearing from the 1985 game when we literally got flagged for excessive crowd noise due to Harbaugh complaining about not being able to give his calls. Kinnick's a bad place to play if you're on the other side.
Sure.
Penn State 2 years ago, 2022, it broke 119 decibel, which means you could have permanent hearing loss. So Kinnick, and they're right on top of you. Kinnick, I've seen bad things happen at Kinnick if you're not a Hawkeye.
Yeah, and Michigan got saved last time that Michigan was at Kinnick because it was put up. I believe that was one that was put up to a Big noon kickoff or an earlier kickoff, so that it was spared the Kinnick at night voodoo.
Yeah,
which that's real. I mean,
it is real.
It is.
In 2005, Iowa had something like a 23-game home winning streak. And I had my girlfriend, now wife, with me at the game. I had the engagement ring right in my pocket. I had the dudes that I was tailgating with all ready to join us on the field as I was going to propose after our victory. It went into overtime mainly because Dave Winovette called a go-go gadget pass interference on Javon Johnson, who must have had 9 feet arms for a pass interference. And it went into overtime, and your running back beat us in overtime and kind of screwed up my plans. I proposed later that night, but
it might as well
on the field. And so, you guys really kind of stink for that. Thanks a lot.
Yeah.
All that said,
it's all my fault. It's all
not your fault, brother. All that said, it's exciting. I know Corey obviously really well. I don't know you as well. You know Cade McNamara better than anyone.
Mm-hmm.
You know Eric All better than anyone. I think I think between Reganey, Vines, and Seth Anderson with the two tight ends, and the fact that Gary Barta is gonna be the badass that he is and hold everyone accountable.
Oh yeah, he's a master at holding people accountable, isn't he?
Yeah, he's the best in the business.
Oh, I mean, he is what I call the American standard AD, if you know what I mean.
Oh my God.
You know, Mary Sue Coleman would have never put up with
Oh hell no.
all these lawsuits
No,
and
I don't think
everything
so.
else.
No, Mary Sue didn't take any prisoners. I mean,
Mary Sue was my president when I went there 28 years ago.
Oh geez, yeah.
Yeah, no, she
Yeah.
was I will say she definitely was she was fine with athletics compared to Schlissel, but her strength was really in academics and in fundraising. So so the billions that were raised during her tenure and the development of the buildings and everything that happened, it was really impressive how from my first day on campus to my last day on campus, you had multiple completely new buildings built. You had the others got renovated pretty much, and she did a great. And she's not. I met her once. She's great to actually talk to one-on-one. So yeah, not a bad president.
Probably the best president in Iowa history, if you really want to think about it. She was phenomenal. I hated losing her. You know, especially since she followed a terrible president in Hunter Rawlings. But anyway, my question for you is, obviously I saw McNamara play a little bit. You know, I'm not completely ignorant to him. We're probably going to have a better line on the offensive side.
Yeah, you should.
Our D line is still going to be phenomenal.
Sure.
Our whole defense is going to be awesome. But on the offensive side, Nick Saban stole our prized recruit, best recruit in Iowa history. We still have a lot of good ingredients there. Based on what you know with Eric Gall, obviously Cade. You know who Nico Reganey is. He's very serviceable. Vines is okay. And Seth Anderson, who's Flipper Anderson's son. What would you, from an educated standpoint, see Iowa doing? From a performance standpoint, I mean, I'm not going to ask you about the stupid 7 wins and 25 points that counts defense.
Yeah, right.
That's just so Gary Barta.
Rewarding, and it's not even offensive points. It's points, which means Brian could score like almost nothing and still get his bonus.
See, that to me is just it's laughable. It's bogus. Like our defense alone can get the 25 points sometimes.
It's true. And so to answer your question, I think that Cade McNamara was about the most perfect quarterback pickup that you could get in the transfer portal. And the reason why I say that is Iowa, I think, doesn't expect their quarterback to be Aaron Rodgers. They don't expect their ideal situation is a game manager quarterback that's competent. And I don't mean game manager in a negative way. I mean game manager in somebody who has an excellent grasp of the offense, can delegate the different assignments appropriately during the huddle or whatever the case may be, and be able to not just hand off the ball, but get those 10, 20 yard tight end option plays going. He's not going to be your deep ball chucker very often, but what he will do is he's going to get Eric Gall and Luke Lachey a lot of touches. And if your wide receivers are okay, then you're fine. So like Nico, you mentioned, and it looks like Nico has one more year and is kind of the leader of the room right now. That's so probably might be your best receiver, but you've got a couple that, as long as they're serviceable and can mix it up, so it's not always going to the tight ends, you're probably fine as long as the line holds up. So I think you could win 11 or 12 games, because that Penn State game, remember, Cade McNamara to Eric All close to the end of the Penn State game in 2021, they had to win the game. Penn State was winning. They had to win the game in the last couple of minutes.
So let me ask you one more question. So J.J. McCarthy, is younger, has a little more time.
Mm-hmm.
And what's funny about that is what Harbaugh decided to do is what Don Patterson, who is the offensive coordinator for Iowa under Hayden, he's made the statement a few times with Corey, and that was, if you have relatively the same talent, but one guy is a couple years younger, go with the younger guy. And I think that's possibly what Michigan did. Where Iowa, if we had McCarthy and Cade on our team, Cade would start until he's done, and then McCarthy would take over. No question about it. And Erica just said, yeah.
That's 100%.
Look at like what I said about Lucas Van Ness, or AJ Epinesa playing behind Parker Hesse. Parker Hesse's in the NFL, ironically, as a tight end with Tennessee, even though he was a D end playing ahead of Epinesa his first 2 years. My point is, in your opinion, if you're Jim Harbaugh and you have these two quarterbacks at your disposal, do you go with the older Cade McNamara, who has an undefeated season, or do you go with J.J. McCarthy, who's done the same?
Well, I think Harbaugh has not always handled things the best, but I think Harbaugh handled this pretty damn well. And the reason I say that is, okay, I think that they knew in fall camp and over, like, that JJ was better than Cade. But they couldn't just outright give JJ the job, because JJ was injured all of spring, and Cade won a captainship, which, as you know, is voted on by the players. And so I think he handled it in the absolute best way possible. There was very little question that Michigan was going to lose to the Colorado State Rams or the Hawaii Rainbow Warriors. So he basically treated them as preseason games and gave Cade the audition in the first game and JJ the audition in the second game. And it worked out extremely well. The results, it was very obvious to anyone with eyes that JJ was the better quarterback for the moment. Now, do I think that Cade was impacted by injuries and also just mentally impacted by this quarterback battle? Well, he said he was. He was on the Jordan Palmer podcast and said he was. That impacted him mentally, because he thought he was going to get the job. So I think that factored into the not so great performance, especially like throwing picks against Hawaii. That was not like Cade. Cade usually takes care of the ball, secures the ball. He's not going to throw picks against Hawaii, but he was mentally messed up, and he was dealing with, clearly we know now, he was dealing with injuries and he needed off-season surgery. So I think he handled it about as well as you could handle it. I think they all knew they wanted JJ to be the starter, but they couldn't just give it to him. And so they made it a transparent quarterback audition. I think they did it the right way.
Well, that wouldn't have happened here.
Nope.
It wouldn't have happened here. We had Nate Chandler start ahead of Drew Tate as a true freshman. Drew Tate at the time was the all-time Texas State passing leader. He was amazing. And yet, we had to let a 6'8" slow quarterback who threw 180 yards a game, a good manager, start ahead. Would you agree, Erica?
Yeah, I agree. And they do it time and time again. I mean, we just saw this happen with Spencer. Alex Padilla wasn't some fabulous quarterback. I'm not trying to say that, but they wouldn't even entertain giving him a chance unless it was horrible circumstances, like that second part of the Ohio State game. And there were like 2 or 3 other opportunities like that he had. That's not right to just give him those crappy opportunities and say, oh, he's not the one for the job.
I got another one for you, Erica. You remember the Florida Bowl game where my wife had her friend and husband, who's a Florida fan, come over to our house for the bowl game. And I had to sit through a 33-3 loss where CJ Beathard got the holy hell kicked out of him, where he could barely walk, and Ed Cunningham doing commentary basically went into a rant about child abuse.
Mm-hmm.
And who was the true freshman backup who was 100% healthy? Our second all-time leading passer, Nate Stanley.
That's right.
Are you telling me Nate Stanley wasn't the better guy at that moment when CJ Beathard could barely walk?
Mm-hmm.
Now, CJ Beathard had very little talent around him, and he's in the NFL still to this day with Jacksonville backing up Lawrence. So, there's that. But I think there's a reason Michigan does what Michigan does and why we're close on the cusp, but definitely a tier down. And I think some of these things are the reason why.
Yeah, I think that, and I hate saying this, but I think until Kirk leaves, we're not going to get to the next tier. I mean,
well, here's the thing, Erica. Kirk Kirk's really close to winning, topping Woody Hayes as the all-time Big Ten coach, and I think he's going to stick around for that.
You were mentioning
that's
that, yeah.
True. That's true.
We have friend of the program, George, calling in.
Oh my gosh.
I know. I have to let George in here.
It's
George, welcome to the show.
Hey, how y'all doing?
I'm glad you called in, man. How you been?
Hi, George.
I've been fine.
Nice. We're just.
I know you want more. I know you want more than that, but due to the state of affairs in the world, I just don't feel like talking as much as I used to.
I got you. Well, we're just chatting some Iowa football here, and talking about what could possibly happen now that former Michigan quarterback Cade McNamara is now at Iowa.
Sounds good to me.
Nice.
That's a good move. I was happy when I heard that.
Yeah, me too. I was happy for him. I mean, obviously, whoever lost in the JJ versus Cade battle was going to transfer, and I had been saying for a year that Cade would be a great fit at Iowa, and I'm glad that it happened. I think it was Stan says it best right here. Cade is a good system quarterback. And, they didn't really have much of a functional quarterback with Petrus, as Erica has mentioned on the show before. Petrus is not her favorite player.
Nope, not at all. Not at all. So I see a lot of people in the chat complain that we're talking Iowa, and if they want to talk something else, they need to call in. Again, why are people scared to call in and chat?
Hey, John, quick. Oh, I'm sorry, Erica. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, you're fine. Go ahead.
Hey, John.
Yeah.
If you had to buy a jersey of a former Buckeye, who would it be?
I somehow don't think he would take that deal.
Or a Spartan. And
wow.
What would you rather do? Date a Spartan or marry a Spartan or marry or date a Buckeye? Because I'll tell you what, Iowa State was they were immediately eliminated when I got married.
If you forced me to, you had a gun to my head and forced me to buy a Buckeye jersey, Dwayne Haskins would probably be on the list.
Okay.
I think I had a lot of respect for what he did. Obviously, he passed away way too soon. And I think he didn't get his due in the NFL. So he would probably be on the list.
Did you see there's some really crazy circumstances that came out today regarding his passing?
Yeah. Yeah. I didn't really dive too much into it, but yeah, apparently something new
And
info.
do you have a favorite Hawk of all time?
A favorite Iowa player?
Yeah.
I mean, Kittle's
I
up
love
there.
him. I love him. I watched the Niners just because of Kittle.
Well, the Miz is not a Kittle fan.
Oh, really?
Oh boy.
You heard about that, right?
About
He
the
got
Bucks-
involved. He got involved in WrestleMania and beat up the Miz.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I wasn't in love with that, but you know.
I know. I couldn't help but laugh though. That was funny. Yeah, and it's funny because Kittle is so the opposite of Kirk Ferentz, right?
Oh God. You know what? I would love to see Kittle come back to Iowa and coach. I think that would
Oh,
be
wow.
so good.
Well, I don't know. Gary Barta has a mandate that personality has to be tempered a little bit. But hey, guys, thanks for taking my call. Good to see you.
Good to see you, Ryan. Thanks for coming back in, and you're always welcome on the Big Ten Live show. We don't care what fan base. I don't even care if you're a Big Ten fan. There's people who've called in that are SEC fans and etc. In fact, it's encouraged to have someone who isn't a Michigan or an Ohio State, because we talk about Michigan and Ohio State pretty much constantly. So anytime we can talk about another team, I always love to do it.
As long as it's not the Spartans, right?
They can call them too. They better be ready to chop it up though.
Are there any Michigan State fans who come by? I don't think I've ever seen one.
There's been a few, not
Okay.
often, not often.
Okay.
I'm sure they just called in to congratulate you on back to back.
Oh yeah.
Hey, real quick. I'm sorry, real quick. Where's Hunter Dickinson going? Kansas?
Maybe Maryland.
Ooh.
Maybe, or he could stay at Michigan.
I don't
There's
know
nothing
why
stopping a transfer. There's nothing stopping a transfer from. He could stay, and I'm sure they'd let him stay. So
I don't know why he would leave in the first place, but it's his life, not mine. So, all right, hey guys, thank you. Have a great night, Erica. Great talking to you, John. Thanks for taking my call.
Talk to you later.
You guys have a good one.
Thanks, Ryan. And we do
Bye,
have
Ryan.
we do have Goat James calling back in, so I'm gonna bring Goat James in here. Welcome back, Goat. You called in earlier, didn't you, Goat James?
I called the other day.
Oh, the other day. Okay. Well,
Hey man, I just want to congratulate all the Big Ten fan bases. Competing for the second place in the Big Ten.
Oh,
I
God.
agree.
It's gonna be great, man. I can't wait to see it, man. It's gonna be a great runner-up trophy. I'm excited to see it come through.
I'm surprised Corey said so definitively Ohio State is going to be the Big Ten East because first of all, Penn State's no spring chicken, number one, and number two, Michigan just won the last two. So I mean, I think it's going to be a three-way battle for that.
Yeah, that was blasphemous, man. That was blasphemous. I was surprised lightning didn't come through his roof.
I don't, it's possible. Oh, we got a super chat. Thank you, Nick, for your 999 super chat there. Do y'all think that USC and UCLA joining the Big Ten will help Michigan and OSU prepare for high octane playoff offenses?
I mean,
yes.
Well, yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say that OSU, like their defenses, I just don't. I don't understand why they can't get a decent defense going over there.
Yeah, I mean they're. I'm really surprised.
Oh, they're soft. They're terry cloth.
Surprised that USC's linebacker coaches were retained.
Well, yeah,
because the secondary was a disaster. D-line wasn't like awful. And then towards the end of the year, I think they had a little bit more in terms of injuries in that arena. But they got Michigan's DL coach, Sean Nua, went over to USC, and so he's a good coach. So I think Grinch is on the hot seat if he doesn't bring up the statistical numbers of that defense pretty substantially, I think he's going to get tossed for Jim Leonard in 2024.
Here's what I gotta say about that question. There's no excuse for Michigan not being prepared because the game they play pretty much right before the playoffs is the best offense in the country.
True.
So I don't think that applies to Michigan when the last game of your season is against an offense that's actually probably better than those offenses. So they should be prepared when they go into the playoffs.
Yeah, I'm not concerned about Michigan. I'm sure they'll be fine, but OSU just has not convinced me that they can get it done on the defensive side of the ball. I don't know.
Well, here's the thing with them, right? So there is a trend that happens with that style of offense. I don't know if it happens through practice, but when you are a pass first type offense, this is why you see this in the Big 12, right? The reason the Big 12's defenses aren't like on par with like SEC defenses or Big 10 defenses is because a lot of that toughness that creates a good defense is with smash mouth football. So that's why with air raid offenses, they typically don't have the better defenses in the country, and I think that's just a byproduct of the offenses that they run.
Yeah.
Yeah, Ohio State has been statistically the best offense in the country the last couple of years for the most part, and occasionally, I think USC could sneak in there once in a while if Bama figures their stuff out, or Georgia. They have the talent to be up there statistically at the top. But when it comes to defense, I think Ryan Day moving to more of a CEO mentality, just like Urban Meyer was. Urban basically told the defensive coordinator, can you switch to the Michigan State style? And this was back in 13, 14. I don't remember. Mark's probably gonna tell me when it was, but basically like switch more to a Michigan State style defense because that is such a pain in the to defend against. And so with Ryan Day moving to that type of role as well, then he will be able to look at maybe some of the weaker spots of Jim Knowles' style and defense and basically say, can we switch this up? Can we switch that up? Because at the end of the day, they need to beat Michigan.
Yeah, but the other thing with that too is Urban Meyer and Ryan Day are just two totally different coaching styles too, though. I mean, you talk about like right. So Urban was still a run first guy, whether it was his quarterback or he just promoted a different style of football. It's at a point where he got to prove that they could put a defense out on the field that's a top defense before I give him credit for anything. I'm not just going blind faith that he's going to do that. So I'm just going to wait to see. That's just how I'm looking at it.
Yeah. We got a friend of the show, GOJ, calling in. Welcome to our little party here, GOJ.
Yeah, salute to the panel. Salute. You know I'm about to talk my Ohio State Buckeye.
Absolutely, and we're ready.
Yeah, I'm having a hard time understanding why Michigan is getting all this buzz when they haven't won anything, right, of significance. Yeah, they won the Big Ten twice. Big wow, man. Big wow. Bring home the big trophy, man. Bring it home. Don't keep selling me, they got dominance, this, that, and the third. I don't see them having a roster to play with the big boys. And don't use Ohio State. That game is something totally different. It's different.
GOJ, let me stop you there. Let me just ask you a question. When you say win a game of significance, you're talking only about the postseason, right?
That's what I'm talking about.
Okay, so you don't think that beating a top 5 Ohio State team and a top 7 Penn State team is a game of significance?
It used to be a game of significance, but Michigan has been horrible for so long that they took themselves out of the luster. I used to look forward for that Michigan-Ohio State game. It became trash to me. It was just another game. I have to build myself back up to get excited for it.
Well, you should be excited, bro.
Even with them winning two years in a row, I still have to get myself excited for that game because I looked at the last game and I saw that Ohio State was in it all the way to the fourth quarter, and they popped a couple. So I'm just not sold on Michigan being this.
That's crazy, man, because you're going to have to wait till 2024.
Well, hey, you guys been waiting a long time. Y'all been waiting since '97.
Yeah, we here now.
The last time y'all won, payphones was on every corner. Y'all got to talk
Hey,
to
man.
me, man.
Well, let
Hey,
me
all
toss
tides
this.
turn. All
Let me
tides
toss this
turn.
at you. Let me toss this at you, GOJ. So, and I've been trying to listen to Buckeye podcasts just as much as Michigan podcasts, and one of the things that has continued to come up is the idea of that this is a must-win Michigan. This is a must-win game in November for Ryan Day to continue for Ohio State to stay at the top, that 5-star recruiting battle. Like, this is a must win at the Big House. Do you think that that's the case? Like, if Ryan Day loses and maybe goes 9-3 or 10-2 and loses in Ann Arbor, is he on the hot seat in 2024?
I don't think so, and I say that because of the nature of college football today. You can lose that Michigan game and still go win the national championship.
Sure.
So the pressure on him to kind of like, oh, we got to beat Michigan. That's an Ohio State thing, but we such a national brand now that we want to win this national championship. That's what makes you. If they win a national championship, he'll go to the NFL on his own. But he has to get that national.
Well, next year though, so next year is still 14 playoffs, so you can't just bank on you losing to Michigan and still being able to make the playoff. Like that's still high likelihood that it doesn't happen next year.
Brother,
you have to beat
already.
Michigan to make the playoff. But hey, hold on, but you're hoping, but you got to hope for a lot of things that happen there outside of your control. That's the problem with that. There's only been 2 teams that haven't won their division that made the playoffs since the playoffs started. Only 2 teams have done that.
Brother, that would make
so
sense.
you're asking for a lot of things to happen to make the playoff when you lose to Michigan.
That would hold weight if it just didn't happen. I would say you're absolutely correct, but it happened. You know what I'm saying? It happened. So
it happened, but the likelihood of that happening again, a lot of things would have to fall your way for that to happen. Look at this past year. Look at all the things that had to happen just for you to sneak in there.
But it happened.
True.
Let's talk about.
But you can't bank on that. That's my point.
Normally you're not getting 2 Big Ten teams in the playoff unless just because if USC had won like they were supposed to, they would have been in the playoff.
If my auntie had nuts, she'd be my uncle. It happened.
Well, not only that, you're also counting on Alabama to not be Alabama next year. Right. Georgia's going to get in there. They got the easiest schedule next year. They're going to be 12-1. I mean, you're counting on a lot of things to happen when you lose to Michigan, which means you don't even win your division to get into the playoff. I mean, you could hope for that. You could hope and pray to God that happens, but I mean, you're gonna that mentality will work for 24 when it's a 12-team playoff. It's not going to work next year. That mentality.
Brother, I'm just asking the question that the brother posed to me, like as far as the hot seat. I anticipate us beating you guys. I'm just feeding or kind of playing off the question he initially asked me. You get what I'm saying?
No, I feel you.
Question, guys.
Let me ask you, why do you think that, though? Why do you think Ohio? Let me hear a logical reason why you think Ohio State's going to beat Michigan next year.
Because I think we have a better team. Simple.
We go through it, though. Tell me why.
Our coaching staff, I believe, is better than yours. I believe our wide receiver room is better than you guys. I
agree with the wide receiver room.
Defensive line is greatly improved. I believe our running back room as a collective is right up there. We're good enough to get the job done. I believe we have a total package team this year. The only thing that failed us last year was our defensive line. We had guys who were starting that shouldn't have been starting, but they played that seniority role. That's going to change this year. We got some dogs up front, and I believe we got some corners that's ready to step up and make plays.
So here's my problem. Go ahead.
Your secondary got wrecked a little bit too.
Here's my problem with that is your defense at this point under Ryan Day has had one good season, which was 2019. It's at a point where it's got to be proven, bro. Like you could say the D line, you've had stars on D, you've had 5 stars on that D line this whole time, and they haven't produced. So you could talk about they got this, they got that. They got to show it on the field, bro, because they haven't been able to. Secondly, you can't say the coaching staff's better when they've been out coached 2 years in a row with lesser talent. Like Michigan if you go by recruiting, has lesser talent, but they've blown you out 2 years in a row. That's coaching. That's coaching. So you can't say coaching. You can't say the coaching staff better. I don't know how you can come to that conclusion. Secondly,
I said it because I believe it. Are you my national spokesperson?
but hold on. But why though? Why do you believe that? Because I got results on the field that showed that the coaching staff's better for Michigan. You don't have that. You're just going off blind faith.
Brother, the same argument you use against me is why I don't believe you really feel that way. Because you have better talent against TCU.
Huh?
You had a month to prepare, and you want to sell me better coaching? Man, stop it.
Yeah. Hold on. Who recruit? Well, hold on. Who's had the better recruiting classes without question? Ryan Day or Jim Harbaugh?
Ryan Day, of course. We Ohio State.
Okay, right. So when you got a better pool of talent to coach from, it's easier to coach versus Harbaugh, who doesn't recruit at that level, has gotten actually better results than Ryan Day the past 2 years, has beat Ryan Day. He's stumped the mud hole in Ryan Day 2 years in a row, one at the big house and one at his house. There's no logical point you could point to say that his coaching staff is better.
And I'm saying to you, by that same argument, Michigan went in there, Big Ten champions, better coaching staff, better talent, and got beat.
If you want to make an argument for Harbaugh and Dyke the coach at TCU, make that argument. We're talking about Ryan Day and Jim Harbaugh.
You're talking about Ryan Day and Harbaugh. I'm talking about the point you tried to make as far as talent, and I said I can use that same
Okay, so that applies to Harbaugh and the TCU coach. It doesn't apply to Harbaugh and Ryan Day.
The point was talent. You tried to use the talent argument against me, and I just said, cool, concede.
But you brought up another coach, so if you want to say that other coach did a better job, then that's fine, but you can't apply that to Ryan Day and Jim Harbaugh.
The premise you tried to rock with was talent, right? So I used the same argument. I concede that fact. How about, and we can end it right there. Now I will ask you, you had the better talent, Big Ten champs, your coaches, this, that, and the third. You had a month to prepare for TCU, and you got beat. What happened?
So you could say TCU had a better coach team. There you go. You proved my point.
No, we proved each other's.
No, I agree. TCU had. He won coach. Did he win Coach of the Year? Did the TCU coach win Coach of the Year?
And you believe the other way.
But bro, you got no facts to back it up, man. I just want your facts.
Let's talk recruiting. We mentioned recruiting. Let's talk recruiting. So Ohio State and Michigan both scored some major recruiting wins the last few weeks. Ohio State just got Air Noland, who had visited Alabama a few days before in an unofficial visit, and then decided to pick Ohio State once. So Ohio State offered late in the game, but apparently that was the school that he really wanted to go to, but he needed that offer. GOJ, what do you think about Air Noland and what he's going to bring to Ryan Day's offense?
I think he's perfect for Ryan Day because Ryan Day loves a passing quarterback, right? But he understood he also needs a quarterback that can scramble and make plays. Mm-hmm. So that's a good fit for us. You know, Ryan himself is a passing quarterback out of New Hampshire? That's just him. But he figured out last year, I have to have a quarterback. Even though I love passing, he got to be mobile for me. He got to move the chains. He got to pick up them, that dirty 3 yards. So, I like the kid. I like him, and I think in about 2 or 3 years he will be the face of Ohio State.
Yeah, there were some people in the chat saying, well, Jaden Davis is a 5-star and Air Noland is a 4-star. I don't put as much into star rankings as some people do, especially because as a Michigan fan, I would be very unhappy the last few years if I had done that. So, you got to also have faith.
That's where you credit the coaching.
You have faith in the coaching abilities.
As an Iowa fan, I have to jump in there. I know we're talking about Ohio State and Michigan here, and I'm enjoying listening to this debate. I am. But what I was going to say is, Iowa gets so the people who are going to be drafted from Iowa this upcoming draft came in as 3 stars and 2 stars. Okay. And they're going to get drafted. Mm-hmm. So that speaks to coaching. You can say a lot about Iowa, but they are good coaches. And that just is proof that the stars don't always, that's not the, end all.
Oh, yeah, I agree. I agree.
The answer.
Mm-hmm.
No, I agree. That's when the coaching comes in. And then real quick about the TCU point. I mean, Michigan lost by 6 even though they gave up 28 points. I mean, that's not the same as Ohio State getting blown out, completely blown out 2 years in a row, completely outcoached from beginning to end. It's two totally different scenarios.
Brother, you still in your fitness. We way past that point.
No, I just thought I wanted just to finish that one and we can move on.
Let's see here. Well, it looks like the Buckeyes are going to get some reinforcements because Alex Martin is back. Welcome back, Alex, to the show.
Hi, Alex.
Hey, Brad. Bring him on. Oh, this.
Hey.
Oh, wait.
So now we've got two Buckeyes.
Do you know this thing about?
Did you gonna bring up Alex Orgy again, bro?
Called Mercury.
I think he's
Cell phones and all your
Oh.
texts.
Yeah, dude, come back in when you're having some real bad signal problems, dude. So basically, in terms of the Aaron Nolan situation, you guys also got Mylan Graham, and this was, I believe, your second 5-star wide receiver, maybe third in this recruiting class. So there's no question about your ability to recruit the top wide receiver talent. And as long as Brian Hartline's there, that's going to continue to be the case. But are you worried? Michigan did snag a 4-star running back pickup in Ohio State's backyard, and Jaden Davis is making phone calls to the Ohio State commits as well as other commits and his buddies at Providence Day to try to bring in the top passing recruiting class that Michigan has had in a long time. I mean, does that concern you at all, GOJ, or are you're pretty much
not really. And Jaden Davis, he's basically wasting his minutes because when Brian Hartline gets you, especially that receiver room, 9 times out of 10 you ain't going nowhere. As far as the running back that left Ohio, man, Ohio State, believe it or not, has never really had a big footprint in Cincinnati, right? So when I heard that he went to Michigan, I wasn't surprised because we never really had that pipeline of Cincinnati kids coming to play for us, right? They usually go to Kentucky or West Virginia, but we never really had that. Yeah, we got Paris out of there, which surprised me at the time because I thought he was going to go other way. But to hear a Cincinnati kid getting away from us, I wasn't shocked. Now, if you start, messing with Northeast Ohio as far as Glenville and some of the pipeline schools, then I might, have a little concern.
Well, here's what I got to say. Like a snowball effect, right? So the trend's going to start small. You may not notice it at first, but that snowball going to get bigger. So when Michigan does blow you out in the big house this year, that snowball is going to turn to an avalanche, and then you're going to start getting worried.
I hear it. That's what your mouth says, but,
Oh, you're going to see. Hey, trends start small, man, and they get bigger. This is just the start.
Well, here's the thing. So my comment on the first half of the game this last year, I think that Ryan Day had coached Ohio State he was very concerned with being out he didn't want to be out physical. And in the first half, they were doing a good job at keeping Michigan's running game at bay and holding them. Knowles went all in, 9 guys, 10 guys in the box to stop the run. And in the first half, it worked pretty well. But then,
can I make a comment about that?
Yeah, go for it.
So, I'm pretty sure you watched the tape, right? So obviously we didn't have Blake Corum there, and it was
correct. 6 yards, and then he got out. He was injured.
Yeah. So the third string, I don't know his name's escaping me right now. The third string running back, CJ Stokes. There's 2 plays in that first half where there was 2 massive holes that CJ Stokes goes right into the D line instead of going through the hole. If Blake Corum's in there, bro, those are 2 massive plays, and I think not having your best player in that game obviously affects that, and I think that affected the first half. Not to mention the fact Donovan Edwards had 1 arm pretty much. I mean, he was juggling the ball, trying to secure it when he got the handoff. So I mean that's a factor for sure. So I mean if you watch that tape and you really look at like some of those runs, there were some missed opportunities in the run game in that first half that it looked like they shut it down, and they did in spots, but there was also spots where they could have easily broke a couple runs. And I think they found those holes. I think Donovan Edwards found those holes in the second half is what happened.
I mean, we both can go back and watch tape and from both sides of the of that game and say a team missed this or we left some plays on the field. Bottom line is Michigan had a big line, a dog line. You get what I'm saying? And they just bullied our team up front. You get what I'm saying? You got a good O-line that's pushing the pocket and doing what they want to do. 9 times out of 10 in the Big Ten, you're going to come away with a victory. We just had no answer for that big offensive line up front, you know. And and it is what it is. You get what I'm saying? So, you know, in the trenches, they kicked our tails. And that's the bottom line. You know, which is why you gotta start asking the question, right? Because you have the stars. You have the 5 stars on the D line. So what is it then? Because you got the 5 stars on the D line. Listen. I don't do the stars. When you hit the campus, when you hit the Woody, all that star shit. All that star mess is out the door. You understand? We have some 5 stars, but that just because you're a 5-star don't mean you should be playing, right? We have some guys.
I'll tell you this, bro.
Hold on, brother. You gotta let me finish one time. We had some guys that was behind these players who I felt that should have been ahead. You get what I'm saying? But sometimes we play this. He's a senior guy. We got to give him some. We got to coddle these players. No, if that sophomore, that freshman is better than that junior, that whoever, get him in the game. You understand? So, you know, it is what it is.
Yeah. Real quick, I got 2 things. You never saw that problem under Urban Meyer. Those linebackers and those D-lines always play tough. Always play. Look at the Michigan games, right? In 2018, 2019, what did they always do? They were always able to stuff our run game. His defenses play different than the Ryan Day defenses. They play tougher. Secondly, so I get the whole star point, and I understand all that. But you're starting to sound like Michigan fans did with the quarterback. The next one, when the next quarterback get in there, man, he's gonna show. Well, it's starting to sound like that with your defense, man. Like, when the next guys get in there, that's gonna be it. They gotta prove it, man. It's 3 years in a row now.
But you keep saying I'm in agreement with you, brother. I'm in agreement with you. We have to prove it. I don't understand why you keep making that point. I agree. My whole thing is, in my opinion, we have some guys that was, you know, behind the so-called starters who were better, in my opinion. You understand? You got to understand, even when Ohio State,
we thought like that about John Horn, and then he came in.
That's y'all. My whole thing is, even in the Michigan-Ohio games, when we were kind of winning that series, it wasn't that many blowouts in that series. Michigan was in some of them games and were in position to win some of those games. So it wasn't like we were just dog walking them every single game. Yeah, 2 of the games got away from Michigan, but all in all, the games were competitive. You understand? So
yeah, because your defense was.
Brother, our defense, Michigan was moving the ball too. You get what I'm saying? Like, I don't want you to kind of just, our defense is going to be fine this year. I believe so.
I can't remember a game under Urban Meyer where it felt like Michigan could get chunks anytime it wanted to in the run game. I don't remember that. I don't remember watching any game under Urban Meyer where I went in that game feeling like.
Urban had Luke Fickell and Urban had Schiano at various points, and they did a great job with being physical on every aspect. You guys had Chase Young, and in 2019 even, so he was still obviously a player who just went to the NFL and has been in the NFL now. But yeah,
Urban and the Bosa brothers. Your defense is easy.
And the Bosa.
The back end gonna be kind of. They ain't got to guard nobody for too long. You get what I'm saying?
Hey man, I just think you guys look like a Big 12 team at this point.
And I look at you guys as a team that's Big Ten good, but don't have the rosters to play to win a natty. And,
well, let's talk about that.
If you guys like hoisting Big Ten trophies, hey, I'm all for that.
Let's talk about that. Let's talk about that actually. So you're basing that off of obviously the Georgia game in 21 and the TCU game this past year, correct?
That's the only time y'all been there, so that's the only two games.
So let's go with that. So Georgia in 21, Michigan had Cade McNamara as a quarterback. I didn't think they were going to win that game. They were going up against a generational defense. I mean, we could just toss that matchup out the window. And then this last year, I mean, they lost. If you look at that game, or you say they can't go toe to toe, they did. They lost by 6. Hold on, they lost by 6. They lost by 6 and giving up 28 points. Let me finish, man. They lost by 6 despite giving up 28 points. So in the first time, they get in the red zone. They do a stupid play. They get cute. They turn the ball over inside the 5. The next time, they throw what should have been a touchdown. I don't know how it wasn't called a touchdown. And they fumble the ball literally on the inch line, 1st and goal. They throw 2 pick sixes, and they still lost by 6. So I don't know where you're getting this. They can't compete with the big boys. Like where are you getting?
Brother, I almost hit the Mega Millions. I was 5 numbers short. You understand? You lost. Right?
Well, hold on. Where you said they can't compete. Where are you getting that logic?
They can't compete. If they can't compete.
Based on what?
You got to take based on the scoreboard. You got to take
based on the scoreboard. They lost by 6 despite giving up 28 points. That doesn't make sense. You said they can't compete, bro. You could lose and compete. So Ohio State. By that logic, Ohio State can't compete with Georgia. They lost.
Exactly. We couldn't compete with Georgia.
So they can't compete with the big boys then.
We played with the big boys.
So, but according to you, they lost. So it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how they played. They lost.
We can't play with the big boys. If you want to throw us in there,
so Michigan and Ohio State can't play with the big boys. Okay,
exactly. If you want to put us in there,
if you're saying Ohio State is a big boy, Michigan beat you guys 2 years in a row. How are they not a big boy?
Who said Ohio State is a big boy? I just commented and said Michigan is a good Big Ten team who can't play with the big boys. And then he got in his feelings and he wanted to put Ohio State in there. So I said, cool. Just to make you and coddle you, I'll say Ohio State.
So you don't think Ohio State's a big boy? Is that what you're saying?
I don't think we had the team to play with the SEC last year. We gave it a good run. We put up a good show. We didn't get dogged.
You were up 14 twice on Georgia. What are you talking about?
It doesn't matter. You asked me a question. I listen. In my opinion, I went into that game didn't thinking we can play with them. Right? I'm glad they proved me wrong.
So they could play with them then. You just proved my point.
They played with them that day. Yeah, they played with them.
Michigan beat the team, and then Michigan blew out the team that played with them. So
this is not a win-loss. You win, I win. If it's about scoring, you win. Let's just have a conversation.
Well, hold on. Okay, you said compete though.
Okay, so I'm gonna go in the middle here a bit because I think in 2021, there was no way in hell that Michigan was beating Georgia with the mismatch of both lines, and Cade McNamara's quarterback was not the right quarterback for that game. Even JJ, and he was battling it. We now know he was battling a bit of an injury. He did better against Georgia's pass rush than Cade McNamara did. But then 2022, there was no excuse for losing that game. I think that Michigan. They lost beforehand in the locker room when they said that TCU was out. We were going to out physical TCU. You don't do that. There's a reason Nick Saban always says nice things about Georgia Southern and says nice things about directional Carolina University, because he is not going to give you any bulletin board material. And even JJ and some of the other players were giving TCU bulletin board material before the game even happened. I had a problem with that, and I had a problem with the fact that the play calling was getting away from Michigan's identity. So Matt Weiss,
I agree with everything you said.
Matt Weiss calling a Philly special, that's not Michigan's identity. Michigan's identity is physical.
So, I agree with everything you said. But I agree with everything he said. But he's saying they can't compete. There's a difference in saying you lost and you can't compete. When you say you can't compete, that means when you step on the field that it's not a game.
Right.
That's what he's saying, and that's just not true. It's just not true. If you want to say that Michigan lost because everything you said, I agree. The way they prepared for that game, the way they treated TCU. If you watch Georgia versus TCU. And the way they coached, the Georgia team coached that offense, they did everything I wish Michigan would have done in the first half. A lot of misdirection, QB option, running. Michigan thought they could go in there, just pound the rock up the middle the whole first half, and that was going to be good enough. They didn't. It wasn't until the second half when they opened it up and you saw what could happen. That's on the coaching, 100%. But to say they can't compete, there's no evidence for that.
Yeah,
So,
I wouldn't qualify losing by 6 points as not competing. That's
yeah. So real quick, we're gonna take a brief intermission here to talk about, have you gotten your swag yet? So the Voice of College Football has a merch store by popular demand, and you can get yourself something for the whole family. You can get yourself a coffee mug, you can get yourself a hoodie, a shirt, light a candle for a football team that might not be doing so well. Get yourself some Mark Rogers Voice of College Football yoga pants and swim trunks. Get stuff for the whole family. Okay, you can just go to topqualityshirts.com and I'll put the link right here. I'm wearing currently a Voice of College Football t-shirt today, and repping the Voice of College Football. I know that some of you in the chat have gotten your merchandise. Looks like Cheryl got a coffee mug. So consider.
It looks like our Gra wants to get one for Rutgers for the candle.
There's
Hey, I
always
just
something
want-
about Rutgers.
It's always Rutgers.
Yeah, that's some good merch, man.
Yeah, we try. And Cheryl, yeah, thank you for your. It looks like Cheryl got a coffee mug, I guess. So we appreciate that. We also do have some other things like the Amazon link. So when you shop on Amazon, just take 2 seconds to click that link in the description of any video, okay? I just did an Amazon purchase the other day, got myself a new popcorn maker, because sometimes you need sometimes that microwave stuff isn't so good. You get a real popcorn maker, and you use the Amazon link, and then Mark Rogers gets a couple of bucks. And that that helps the channel, and it's something that a lot of us do all the time anyway. So just click that Amazon link and do that. And my last thing, join the Discord, talk college football 24/7. It's $5 to join the Patreon, guys. It's $5, and the stuff that Mark offers is probably the best I've ever seen it offered in a Patreon. So those are the things I had to mention as part of my. We're having a good conversation, but I did have to talk about those things for a minute. So check out all that stuff. So Michigan, Ohio State, we're headed into a 2023 where I do believe it's a pivotal moment for Ryan Day as a coach. He's making some moves. He brought in Jim Knowles last year. And I think as a CEO mentality, he's going to look more at the defense than I think last year he let Knowles kind of do what he wanted. And I think now he's going to take an Urban Meyer style approach and kind of look at aspects of the defense, tweak it as they go a little bit more than I think he did in the past. So do you think that kind of moving away from that super emphasis on the offense and going more to CEO mentality, do you think that that's going to help Ohio State potentially beat Michigan?
Also, I got to see it to believe it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's going to help him, just to get a better grasp on the team. He is an offensive guy, and that's all he kind of, focused on, right? And I believe him having another guy with a fresh set of eyes on the offense, because you got to think, Ryan Day, when he gets away from the run real quickly, right? And now that he has an OC who got some, some good schemes to him or whatever, he can kind of, stick to the run, even though, a couple runs don't work. You just don't scrap it and just start airing it out. So I think him giving up the play calling duties and focusing on the team all around will help him be a better coach and will help the team, kind of get back to Buckeye football, which is running the ball and being balanced. So I think that's going to help them.
Well, it's also a double-edged sword, though, because Ryan Day is a great play caller, right? So,
yeah.
I mean, you can make an argument that him stepping away from the play calling could also hurt the team because he is a great play caller. And also, what happens when it doesn't work? Does he panic? Does he go like, oh, man, I need to get my fingers back in here?
That's
so
what
there's
Jim
still a lot of
Fisher
questions
would do.
Listen, he's not going to just be not involved in the offense. You get what I'm saying? He's going to have command override. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah,
but
override,
but him just taking a step back and just seeing all the rooms and even his presence, even him just going in there and sitting in a defensive back meeting, that's going to help the players, right? So it's good that he relinquished and delegated some of that authority. I think it's going to help him be a better coach, and I think it's going to, help the team overall.
Well, let me ask you this: how do you feel about the reports in spring camp about Ohio State's O-line? I mean, I'm sure you've heard about that, right?
Oh yeah, I mean, when you try to replace three guys, you're going to have some troubles, right? The defense always is kind of ahead of the offense in any spring. I don't care what it is, but a good running game will help the new linemen and the new quarterbacks coming in. So of course there's going to be some slow start. Yes,
because Stroud had the luxury when he was quarterback of having one of the best O lines in the country, especially in terms of pass protection. So you're breaking in a new quarterback, and this O line, from what I'm hearing, has a long way to go in terms of getting ready for the season. So I just think there's a lot. I just think there's a lot of questions, man. I mean, I'll give them the benefit of the doubt on offense, but there is a lot of questions.
Let's bring back in.
Anytime you replace guys, you should feel that way.
Let's bring back in Alex Martin, Buckeye fan, back on the show. How it looks like you're coming through okay now. Hey, welcome back.
Can everyone hear me? Okay.
Yes.
Are you
The
driving?
reason is I'm next to all the rich people in Manhattan. See that? The rich
There
people
you
have
go.
have the connection. Us poor folk have bad connection. Anyways, all right. Let me jump in there. My friend from Ohio State and my friend from Michigan. So Michigan, I totally think you're awesome what you're doing because you want. Got specs, and it's not Ohio State, Phil. That I went to the school, but I'm not one of those like idiot, pro Ohio State simply cause. I want my team. This is why I think the team today is a lot better than last year, and you can jump in anytime you want. For Michigan, the Michigan guy, not of course you, John, but the guy that was the other guy, the Michigan guy. So this is something to think about. One, Travion and Mayan, they're not the thing, and.
Breaking up, bro.
My internet's working that great.
Oh my God,
brother.
God.
Okay, Alex, you're choppy again, man. I'm letting you go. Sorry. We tried. We'll try back next week.
You gotta get that Verizon, man. You gotta switch to Verizon.
Yeah, I have Verizon. I mean, sometimes it craps out too, but where he's walking, I think I've walked that exact area, and it's not great signal. So it's tough because it feels like Michigan is in that precipice of almost being at that elite level. But I think what Ohio State demonstrated against Georgia, even though they lost the game, it was a last-second field goal miss that lost them the game. But what they demonstrated is that with an elite passing attack, you can beat a team like Georgia and Alabama. Tennessee demonstrated that against Alabama, right? If you have a strong passing attack, you can do it. But what Michigan has tried to do is out-physical Georgia, which isn't going to happen. So I think that what Michigan really needs to do is continue to bring in this wide receiver talent, and occasionally you flip somebody who might lose out in the wide receiver battle at Ohio State, because you've got like first-round draft picks all over the place at Ohio State in the wide receiver room. So maybe a second-round draft pick or a third-round draft pick comes over to Michigan and lights it up with JJ or with Jaden Davis. So do you think that that's the piece? And I'm going to ask this to Goat James first.
Well, here's what I agree and I disagree at the same time, because to me last year, no one was stopping Michigan's offense. No one could stop Michigan's offense with JJ. I mean, Illinois was the closest to doing it, I guess, but no one really was able to slow that offense down. So even with the lack of receivers, no one was able to stop them. So I'm kind of torn on that, because I think the offense under JJ last year worked. Would Georgia have a good time against them? Maybe, but I just didn't see anyone really able to slow them down despite the receiver talent.
Well, TCU slowed them down.
But then they ended up scoring 40 points. So, I mean, it's like,
true.
You know what I'm saying?
That's true.
So, like, no one. So to me, like, you might be able to slow them down for a quarter, but I mean that's any great team. Like even Georgia was slowed down by Ohio State for a little bit, then they got it going. So and with Georgia too, I'm curious to see with Georgia. People I think are underrating Stetson Bennett. Stetson Bennett to me reminds me of like dude. To me, Stetson Bennett reminds me of a 2011 to 2013 Bama type system with the quarterback, where the quarterback just made great decision after great decision, and people undervalue that. So I think they're gonna have a tough time replacing that, to be honest. And we're gonna see how that what goes on with that. Fortunately for them, they got the easiest schedule in the country next year, so we're gonna see. But I think obviously elite receiver talent would help. I mean, it would help anybody. But I just think with JJ, I don't think they need to have a Ohio State-esque receiver room. I think they got the O-line and the running backs and the dual threat QB to do it, and the tight ends. I think obviously having an elite receiver room would just take it over the top, and then we're asking for everything at that point this coming year.
George, are you talking? You're on mute.
I think he might have left the mic.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, we can't hear you, George. I mean, GOJ, what do you like? I guess when it comes, you're the expert on Ohio State and the wide receiver. Like, do you think that had something to do with how close that, like, because my biggest thing that I have struggled with is how Michigan beat Ohio State 45-23, and then Georgia and Ohio State, it's a 1-point game, and Ohio State was leading for a lot of that game. Like, and then the TCU thing happened with Michigan. It does not compute.
Well, people try to.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say real quick. People try to put that Georgia defense last year in the same category as the year before. It just wasn't. I mean, like there was teams that had no business moving the ball on Georgia last year that did. I mean, the backup quarterback for LSU put up 500 yards in the air. I mean, there were several games where you look and you're like, that defense can be beat. It wasn't like the generational defense from the year before. So that's all I got to say about that.
And I'll just add on is with the game plan they went in with was outstanding. They kind of rolled the pocket, half rolls, and the game plan was just brilliant. They took what they could get yardage wise. They was never behind the chains. 3 yards a rush was a success for them on first down. So they kind of tempoed when they needed to, slacked off when they needed to. They just called a good game. You get what I'm saying? They had a month to prepare for them guys. And the game plan was brilliant. They just came short. But the game plan was
also Stroud, bro. Stroud had a day that day, bro. It was one of those situations where Stroud just had a day, man. It just happens sometimes.
Yeah, Stroud had the best game of his college career in his last game. Kind of like Tom Brady. So if you remember Tom Brady, if you guys watched the 2000 game against Alabama, Tom Brady played his best game his last game. And I think CJ Stroud did the same thing. And I think it might win him the first round overall pick because of what he did.
Also say this, and this is I kind of goes to what I forget his name. G.I.J., right? What he said earlier.
G.O.J.,
there is a component where, Michigan, they're studying Ohio State's offense all year. Georgia's not doing that. Michigan's they're studying that offense all year, something that they honestly weren't doing for the first half of Jim Harbaugh's tenure. But, these last couple of years, they've taken it obviously even more seriously than they did before. And I feel like on the defensive side of the ball, with the unique style from the Baltimore Ravens that they run, I think it just gives quarterbacks fits, especially quarterbacks that like to throw the ball. If you watch the Michigan Ohio State game, CJ was taking a long time to read the defense. It wasn't a normal defense that Georgia would run, where he could get to his reads quicker. So I just think that they study on that all year, and they're able to come up with a game plan that was able to confuse CJ some more, especially in that second half.
There's a couple of questions because we have been hitting Ohio State, Michigan hard. What's Illinois looking like? They looked really good last year. Well, so I watched Illinois in person, and they were at that Michigan game at the Big House. We have to remember that Illinois looked fantastic until they got bit by the injury bug, lost their best player, their running back, and then they rallied at the end
Weatherspoon's
there.
a beast.
Yeah, I mean, the whole team was legit, and they could have, if everyone had stayed healthy, they would have definitely. I think they would have been the Big Ten West, and they would have contended with any team that they had faced against them. So what do they look like? They're losing a lot. They're losing a lot to the NFL. So I think they're gonna dip. Are they gonna dip a lot? I think they could still get to a bowl, but I don't think they're going to be as good, nearly as good without their generational running back talent.
I think same thing with Minnesota.
I think that Illinois has a lot to prove this coming year. I mean, they've lost a lot of people. They've lost a lot of their good players. So I'm curious to see how they're going to look this year. And as far as Minnesota goes, I mean, I think they've gotten to that ceiling with PJ Fleck. I'm actually one of those people who likes PJ, but I do think he's gotten to the ceiling. I don't think he's going to do much better than he has.
It's like the Purdue Jeff Brom situation. I think he felt like he could do. He got Purdue to where he felt he could get Purdue to the point where they were in the Big Ten championship game, and they punched back at Michigan a lot. To their credit, they kept until the end of the game, like the last quarter. It was a tight ball game.
Yeah.
And people forget that. And then Michigan's superior talent rallied in the final quarter. Purdue got tired. But at the end of the day, I think that Brom felt he took Purdue as far as he could. And I'm wondering if PJ Fleck is dealing with a similar situation with Minnesota, where he's going to realize, you know what, this might be as far as I can go. Brian Kelly, same thing, went from Notre Dame to LSU because he felt he took Notre Dame as far as he could. So maybe PJ Fleck could be looking at an SEC or a higher level Big Ten job, in the next year or two.
I feel
I
like
absolutely agree. Go ahead.
I was going to say, I feel like he just is totally that type of coach who goes places to get people out of the gutter and get them better and serviceable, and then he goes to the next one. He did that with what team was it in Michigan? It was
Western Michigan.
Yeah,
Western
he did that
Mich,
with them. Now he's done it with Minnesota.
Almost beat Wisconsin in that last bowl game.
So I think that's
It's
what's
close.
going to happen. I think that's what's going to happen is he's going to realize he's gotten to the ceiling, and unless he gets some brilliant recruits and something else changes, he's going to have to go out there.
Yeah, this is usually how it goes, though. A coach like that, he's still early in his career, technically. He'll keep leveling up as long as he performs adequately. There'll be he'll keep leveling up, and there'll be another program that's a notch above Minnesota that might come out and inquire about him.
I wonder.
Wow.
I know this is crazy, but I wonder if PJ would ever consider going to Iowa.
Oh, wouldn't that be something? Row the boat at Iowa.
I mean,
I
don't know if Kirk's ever going to lead there, man.
Oh, believe me, he's leaving.
He might be 90 there.
No, he's gonna leave. It's if
You
Brian
think
doesn't.
so?
Oh yeah, I don't think he's gonna last till the end of his next contract. They're not gonna fire him, but I think he's gonna walk out. I think he's gonna leave.
Big news. 6 minutes ago on Trojans Wire, it was announced that Cliff Kingsbury is going to be an offensive analyst for USC and is reported to be working with the quarterbacks on the Trojans Wire website. Now, I understand that USC isn't joining the Big Ten for another year, but I think it's worth talking about because obviously they're going to be in the Big Ten, and this is kind of their transition year where they've got to start, working on their defense as well. But could this put them in the conversation with Ohio State and Tennessee? I think they're all going to be battling for that number one statistical offense.
Hey, hold on. Michigan might have that too.
I think they're going to be top 5 statistical, but I don't think they're going to be one statistical.
Points wise, I think they could be number 1 points, not in the other categories.
Okay.
But USC to me already. I mean, with or without Cliff, was going to be in that situation. So
it looks like it looks like analyst / quarterback coach or assistant quarterback coach. So he might want to maybe it's a role he can take where he can still go out into the mountains and the vineyards and chill for a bit, but then also help out. And I mean, Lincoln Riley already is an offensive mastermind. You add in Cliff, I mean, I think Caleb Williams. I've been talking about Caleb. Caleb Williams is going to benefit from having Cliff Kingsbury around.
I agree, man. That's a big level up, and I don't care if he's an analyst or whatever role or title you want to give him. I think that's a huge level up, and I think that offense, it's already explosive, so they're gonna put up.
I think USC gonna have the best offense. I don't think Ohio State's gonna be in that conversation. I think they're taking a step back offensively. So, yeah.
Yeah, and reminder, this is a great. Tim always tees us up nicely. Next up after this show on the Voice of College Football must-see TV block, USC Trojans Live is going to be at 11 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Pacific, with Mark Rogers, Voice of College Football, and Matt Zemek, who writes at Trojans Wire and does some great work over there. So if you haven't seen that show yet, I recommend checking it out because every week I learn something new about USC. Matt knows a ton about not just USC football, but all football. And you learn something new like every single time you watch Matt Zemek talk about football. So I recommend everybody consider checking it out at 11 and stay tuned for that.
No, I feel. Hey man, but people need to talk about Penn State more too, man. Penn State, I think, is going to be the second. Penn State's going to be the second best team in the Big Ten, I think.
Wow, second best. Huh? So do you think the running? So my one issue, and Steve Day says the same says similar stuff. Where Steve Day says, hey, Penn State, look out, they'll be top 6, but. We haven't really seen Drew Eller do anything to the extent of an entire game yet. He's been in some, but we haven't really seen him gel and take that next step yet. So that's why I'm a little skeptical. It's kind of like, prove it.
Yeah, this is why I got him number 2 over Ohio State, where I got him at Ohio State 3. Because unlike Ohio State, Penn State's defense is nasty.
Mm-hmm.
Penn State's defense is nasty, and it could be even better this year. Their O-line, it's still got to show something, but so does Ohio State's O-line. Both quarterbacks are questionable, but I'll take Penn State's running back room. I'll take Ohio State's receivers. So when I look at it, I trust Penn State's defense. I trust their running backs more, and the O-line is a draw. Really, the only spot I can see Ohio State with the edge is receivers. That's why I give them
I don't know how Ohio State keeps being the subject of conversation, but I do think Penn State. I believe Penn State is going to be a player in this year's race, right? They always play us tight. You get what I'm saying? So I never count them out. It's some teams on the schedule you just put a W, kind of by them. But Penn State was one.
This is going to be James Franklin's best team since 2016. Calling it right now.
And when they go 9-3, then I think it'll be another chapter. And
I got Ohio State going 9-3. I got Ohio State going 9-3. I got Penn State going 11-1.
9-3 for Ohio State.
Wow.
Yeah, I got Ohio State losing to Notre Dame, Penn State, and Michigan.
Okay, let's tackle this schedule. So remember that in 5 days. So I'm gonna be in LA for this. I might miss it, but the blue white game is the 15th. And then you start with the mighty West Virginia Mountaineers that have obviously are a real problem for a lot of teams.
These guys play 2 winged helmets.
They play a couple. They play the Delaware Blue Hens winged helmets and the Michigan wing helmets. But I think Michigan might be a bit more of a challenge than the Delaware Blue Hens.
Maybe.
But I could honestly see Penn State winning 4 out of the 5, and I could see them losing to Iowa at Beaver Stadium. And I know that that's controversial, but Cade McNamara and Eric All know how to beat Penn State.
Yeah.
And I think that the two of them combine that with Iowa's top 5 elite defense, and that's a recipe for an upset.
I think it's going to be very interesting to watch that game. I'm excited.
Yeah. So I guess the floor would be 10-2. The ceiling's 11-1.
Interesting. Yeah, I think the floor is 9-3, maybe even 8-4. Because if you look here, so you've got so if you say it's an Iowa, because I think it's an Iowa loss, and then Penn State will probably beat Illinois and Northwestern, and Don Brown's UMass Minutemen. I think they're going to win that game too. But then look at this stretch here. You've got you have to play the Buckeyes at Columbus.
That's a win. That's an automatic win.
I think that's a win for Ohio State.
No, Penn State.
You think Penn State's going to win in Columbus? And
I got them beating the Buckeyes by at least 10.
Wow.
Do you think it's because of the coaching, or what's your rationale for that?
I think it's going to be the best team Franklin's had since 2016. I look at the game last year. This team is even better than that team was last year. And the Ohio State team is going to be worse than the Ohio State team was last year. So when I look at that and I look at the rosters coming back, I just got more faith in Penn State winning that game.
Okay.
Well, I'm not saying you're wrong. I was just curious to hear.
It's an interesting take. And I will say James Franklin has always been, they've always played Ohio State tough. But my issue is James Franklin, except for in 2016, seems to always find a way to lose that game. Yeah. And with the talent that Ohio State will have, yes, Penn State has a 5-star running back room. Their quarterback, I hope by this point in the season, will have had enough games and reps with the ones that Drew will be a contender. But I'm skeptical of this being the year that, especially in Columbus, that Penn State beats Ohio State. But I've been wrong before, and I could be wrong again. I could.
Hey man, you wrong.
I could be wrong. Indiana is definitely a dub for Penn State. I just don't see them doing much next year. But here you go. You have the Maryland Terrapins. Okay, so the Maryland Terrapins and Penn State gets them at College Park. Don't sleep on the Maryland Terrapins. They almost beat Ohio State. They almost beat Michigan last year, and they're bringing a lot of players back. Talia is back, and I just think that they're gonna. I actually have Maryland going 9-3, and I think that they could potentially beat They could potentially beat Michigan or Ohio State or Penn State. I think Penn State's the most likely out of those three. But it's just they just have been in that almost precipice of beating an elite team in the Big Ten, and I think they've been really solid this last year or two. So,
well, you know who they got the best chance of being, and I'm just basing this off of how they've played each other the past couple of years.
Yeah,
Ohio State.
Okay. Yeah, they were within until 4 minutes in the fourth quarter. Maryland was, they were threatening Ohio State that whole game last year until the last 4 or 5 minutes of the fourth quarter.
But you got to think, Ohio State is everybody's Super Bowl. Everybody's Super Bowl. So we're going to get everybody's best shot.
You used to be.
That's just the nature of the beast when you're the king.
You're not the king
for so long. Right, so all this
Michigan the king now.
Brother, we let you talk a little bit, but all this talk about Ohio State losing that's wishful thinking. That's fanism. Ohio State ain't losing those 3 games. If anything, we'll lose 1, and that's the only game I'm worried about on that schedule is Penn State. I'm not worried about Michigan or anybody else on that schedule except Penn State. So all this nonsense
Man,
about
you guys are,
hold on, brother. All this nonsense about 10-9-3 and
man, that
that's
20 years
fanism.
gone to your head.
That's Michigan fanism, right? That's all that is, right? But at the end of the day, we still y'all won 2 Big Ten titles, and we still the talk of the town.
Well, we the kings now, man. That's how it works. We took the crown.
You're the king of conference play that don't nobody really care about no more.
Well, you
I
in the
think that
conference
Big
though. You in
Ten,
that
yeah.
conference that we're king of.
We own the bigger and better things, man. Bring that natty here.
Goat. I think Goat, you're cutting out a lot, man. So I'm gonna mute you for this, just for this second. So yeah, I think that calling it, that it doesn't. Well, I don't remember the exact words. Like it doesn't matter or whatever. That winning the Big Ten, winning the Big Ten is a big deal. And especially the East Division of the Big Ten, where you have 3 top 7 teams in the East Division. That's a big deal. So I wouldn't. What's that?
Yeah, it was a big deal during the 10-year war. It ain't a big deal today.
Okay. I mean, when you say it was a big deal then and it isn't now, there were 2 Big Ten teams in the playoff. And they I guess I'm just kind of confused at why it was a big deal back then and it isn't now.
The only reason I make that comment is because the playoff system, right? Ohio State, even Michigan, they can afford to lose 1 game and still go win it. Nobody remembers the Big Ten champ, but they gonna remember that national champion, right? That's kind of like an in-house Big Ten thing, bragging rights. Yeah, we won the Big Ten, blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
Let's just say hypothetically, let's say Ohio State went on to make that field goal and beat TCU. Nobody cares about Michigan being a Big Ten champ. That's just y'all can disagree, but that's what it is. Well,
Dependent Fanatic cares. So Dependent Fanatic is worried about OSU. I'm worried. I mean, no. You should be worried about OSU because here's the thing: Ohio State has some of the best talent in the country every single year. They have the best offense in the country. Yes,
True.
We should care about Ohio State. And this year feels like a must win for Ryan Day, or at the very least, his back is going to be up against the wall. I would be shocked if Michigan didn't get Ryan Day's best ever game as a head coach.
True.
That's what I believe. So then Michigan's going to have to put a game plan together to contend. Let's see here. So we were going through Penn State's schedule. Michigan Wolverines at Beaver Stadium. Michigan, if the teams are evenly matched, Michigan has struggled a bit sometimes when Penn State has a Saquon Barkley or a player like that. But I think in this case, I think Michigan they proved last year, especially in the second half. I know it was in Ann Arbor, but that game was a curb stomp in the second half. And statistically, it was a curb stomp in the first half, but Franklin pulled off some cuckoo bananas stuff in the first half to make it a where Penn State was in the lead for a bit. But I think Michigan's going to win that game. And then you've got Rutgers, which is a joke. And then you've got Michigan State. And Michigan State's a big we'll see. I don't know if they're going to have it's going to be in East Lansing. And it could be a situation where they're playing for bowl eligibility. So if that's the case, where Penn State is facing Michigan State and they are trying to get into a bowl, then that could be a situation where an upset happens. And Michigan State's done that before. So I would say be careful about that last game against the Michigan State Spartans. Because if Mel Tucker is trying to keep his job and keep his money with the $9.5 million a year that he gets paid, and he's trying to get to a bowl, I think he's going to put together a game plan like he did against Michigan in 2021.
$9 million, good God.
Mel Tucker. I still don't know why they paid him the bonus for beating Michigan twice, including once during a COVID year. And so he beats Michigan twice, and then he gets $9.5 million a year.
Wow, good Lord.
Yeah, Jason wants to call in. So, okay, Jason. We are going to be wrapping the show kind of soon because our friends Mark Rogers and Matt Zemek are going to be doing the USC Trojans live in less than an hour.
Boring.
Let's see. You could argue that winning your conference is just as important once the playoff expands because you get a potential bye. I agree with that. The bye is huge. Yeah, so Jason wants to join us in a bit here. Make sure your devices are connected, though. Make sure your mic is connected.
Hey, brother, it was good chopping it up with you. I'm going to bounce up out of here. Enjoyed the panel. Enjoyed the conversation, man.
Absolutely, GOJ. Thanks for coming on. I appreciate you coming on.
Yes. Have a good one, brother.
You too. All right. So let's see. George, you got your audio working?
It's always been working, but when I'm talking to the chat, I mute it.
Got it. Okay. Yeah, I saw you trying to talk, and I was like, wait a minute.
No,
I want to make sure.
I'm talking to the chat, voice to chat.
Love it. No, the chat's been heated up tonight.
Yeah, I don't usually do this with a Big Ten channel, but these guys are pretty into football. Some serious football fans.
Absolutely. Goat James is back.
Hey.
Welcome back, Goat James. You got your internet taken
Yeah,
care
I did.
of, it sounds like.
Yeah, man, I got to say something real quick, man. I can't stand Ohio State fans acting like the Big Ten and Michigan game don't matter no more now that they're losing.
And now it's all about the postseason, apparently, and it's all about
This is the same fan base that crosses out all the M's in the town. You know what I'm saying? Like, they don't like every time they tweet, they cross out the M. Right. Their whole life revolves around Michigan. But now that they losing, they doing a 180. It's like, what are we talking about?
From an outside perspective, it sure sounds that way.
We got friend of the show, Jason Moose, who's calling in. So now we got the Michigan fans growing in here.
Yeah, real quick, I just wanted to. Did that delusional Ohio State fan leave? Is he still here?
GOJ, if you're talking about GOJ, he just left, but he was with us for a while, so we appreciate it.
Yeah, so I just want to talk about that real quick. Okay. It's funny how Ohio State fans now say that it doesn't mean anything anymore. The game doesn't mean nothing. It's funny how they say that when they've lost 2 in a row. But before, it meant so much to them before. But all of a sudden now it's not big anymore. And I also want to say, you said something about, we got bigger fish to fry. Well, I just want to say this. If you got bigger fish to fry, you have to get through Michigan first before you get to that bigger fish. Or you're not going to get there. Because we all know it comes down to Michigan, Ohio State every year.
Cheryl has made the point, obviously a long-time Buckeye fan. Cheryl says, nope, not me. I guess meaning that probably puts as much stock in the rivalry as the playoff, which is I would agree. If I was on the other side of it, I wouldn't be saying, oh, well, Ohio State isn't making enough natties. I would be saying we got to do better. And what are you doing to beat Ohio State today?
Not only that, look at the players and the coaches. There's no one. If you want an example of how much it means, look at the players and the coaches. I ain't never seen a more depressed group of people than Ohio State players and the coaches after they lose to Michigan. If you want an example of how much that game means, just watch the press conferences after they lose, man. I hate Ohio State, and I might shed a tear. It's so depressing.
Don't sit here and tell me that the Michigan-Ohio State game doesn't matter. It matters. Deep down, you know it matters.
Yeah, they only saying that. They only saying that because they know what's up.
It matters so much that even if somebody who's not a fan of either team watches it, I watch that game.
They're only saying that because they lost 2 in a row, and not only did they lose 2 in a row, they're gonna smoke 2 in a row.
To Cheryl's point, I don't think it's fair to, generalize about the entire fan base acting that way.
Yeah, no, that's true. That's true.
That would be like me saying that Husker D represents all the Huskers, and we know that's not true because there's Cole, who's very, very nice, who's a Nebraska fan.
True.
I was just referring to GOJ. I wasn't referring to anybody else in general.
For everybody. We got Argraw calling in, Penn State fan, and I'm sure you were delighted to hear about the predictions of Penn State a couple of minutes ago.
Yeah, well, hey, don't worry about that. We already went through that. Last week. I guess 2 points.
Sure.
The first one being for Erica. I did not at the 6 o'clock show. So a little bit ago, I was not throwing any shade at you, Erica. I promise. When I said that you were confused, I meant you were confused by the question about the whole rivalry thing and the realignment.
Okay.
So I promise you I wasn't like the that Husker fan that was constantly taking his jabs at you every second.
That Husker fan. Okay. No worries at all.
So there's that one. That I guess that's the first order of business. The second one is there was a lot of time spent on the idea of recruiting and recruitment and all these recruits that are, gobbled up by Ohio State and Michigan. And I'm just thinking to myself, this is a 3-way race and no one's mentioning Penn State. Not that I usually get too hung up on the idea of like recruitment classes and all that kind of stuff. I think it was already mentioned, and there's definitely it's definitely a good point. The idea of, the stars don't always mean, everything.
I'm high on Penn State.
You got it. You definitely got to be able to develop them, that kind of thing. But even so, regardless of that, looking at I'm on 3 right now, and I'm looking at the Big Ten rankings. In the top 3, it's Ohio State, Michigan, Penn State, and according to On 3, the average score between them, it has Ohio State number 1, but the gap is slightly closer between Michigan and Penn State. So, I'm thinking to myself, why is it that we're sort of leaving them out when they're right in the mix? The average star rating thus far for the ranking, it's right there between Penn State and Michigan, with Ohio State having that little bump up. Again, this is all according to On 3. And also, Penn State just nabbed a big one not long ago with who was it? Quentin Martin, who's a very, very highly rated 4-star, on the verge of a 5-star. He was number 1 in the state overall, very athletic, and no one seems to be saying anything about that or making any noise. So I guess I'm sort of thinking to myself, rightfully so. Hey, Michigan and Ohio State.
Quentin Martin.
Penn State's in that mix too.
Oh yeah. You probably heard me though. I said Penn State gonna be the second best team.
Oh yeah, 100%. I think Penn State's right up there in the mix. I did hear that. I'm just talking about like from that recruiting angle.
Oh yeah, I think the reason they weren't probably brought up as much is because it needs to translate on the field more. That's probably why. But I do think it's going to translate this year. I think they're going to be the second best team in the Big Ten. I think Michigan 1, Penn State 2, Ohio State 3.
I've always said that James Franklin is a really good recruiter. And with Quentin Martin being added, looks like he committed Friday, and he is he's a .9813. He's probably on the verge of being a 5-star player.
Yeah, I mean he's right there in terms of being a 5-star player. I think I did have it in front of me. The next number two was .9895. So I mean that's how close he is to being considered.
I think if you're over 98.5, you're the 5-star.
So I mean he's right there. But it's the idea of like that was also a big pickup, but it for whatever reason just sort of seems to be off the radar.
We got some huddle tape going of this player doing some things on the field here, and it seems like he could really fit in what James Franklin likes to do. Look at this play. He breaks off for basically a touchdown going the entire length of the field. That's a James Franklin cuckoo bananas play if I've ever seen one. Like, how he has the occasional, like, let's just out of nowhere. You remember when Sean Clifford went like 66 rushing yards? Occasionally Franklin pulls off something like that, and he could use a player who's almost a 5-star to be able to accomplish some of that.
Well, I'll tell you what, man, about Penn State. This is going to relate to them going 11-1 because I think they're going 11-1. If as a Penn State fan, pay close attention to Ohio State. If you watch Ohio State and you see that O-line's struggling and you see that quarterback ain't no Stroud, I'd have confidence in that matchup.
Oh, look at that cut there at the end. He literally just that's like a Blake Corum move. Like last second.
Blasphemous, man.
No, do you just watch it?
I don't see a video. I don't actually see a video. I just see
okay.
I just see the rate. I just see the class.
Oh, okay. Let's see here.
We'll take your word for it.
Yeah, no, it was good stuff.
You're talking about a future Heisman winner next year.
Let's see. Yeah, thanks, Tim. Yeah, my play isn't showing. You're right. So Quentin Martin, I was showing. Let's go back to about 1:30 here. Okay. So this play here is what I was talking about. Okay. So does everybody see it now? And it was
that's like a poor man. That's like a poor man corner.
At the end there. Okay, that I'm talking about the very end of that play.
Okay.
So far it was. The beginning of it was just a basic screen play, but it was the cuts that he made at the end there. I'm like, whoa, that's next level stuff. And I understand it's against high school defenders, but still, that's a player who's going to do some things in James Franklin's system where you kind of need big plays to break off. He relies on that to kind of have that cuckoo bananas couple of plays a game, even though the other team might be overmatching you statistically. Penn State was being overmatched statistically against Michigan in the first half, but yet Penn State was ahead for parts of that game early on, and because of big plays that caused that. So if they can sustain that the whole game, then Michigan and Ohio State are in trouble.
Yeah.
Well, Ohio State's in trouble. Yeah, you're right.
And I guess even more so. Even more so about him is that he is. I'm reading right now on Three's report, and saying that Quentin Martin has been considered Penn State's top 24 prospect for over a year now, and that the native is arguably the best true athlete to come out of Pennsylvania since Micah Parsons. So that's definitely pretty high praise. And they also, in terms of the recruiting, the other universities that were trying to nab them, Ohio State, Michigan were among them. But Franklin did what I guess he does best, which is not necessarily those in-game adjustments, but the recruiting end of it. And he was able to nab one that was pretty good from the sounds of it.
Yeah, man, this might be the turning point, man. This might be where Penn State cements itself as the second best. You know what I'm saying?
Yep. So we're gonna wrap in a minute here, but I want to give everyone a chance to give a final thought, and if they want to let people know where they can find you on social, if you have somewhere you want to point people to. So we'll start off with Goat James.
I gotta have tonight. This is what we're banking on.
I'm hearing somebody's audio.
It's not me. You said sorry. What was your question?
Might be maybe George, maybe somebody. Okay, what? So my question was to Goat James. Final thought for you before we let you go.
Man. Next year is going to be a good. Everybody's going to be competing for that second place trophy. I wish everybody the best, man. There's nothing wrong with getting that silver medal. There's nothing wrong with that. Just don't have your hopes up for that gold medal. All right, that's ours. It's going to be ours next year. 2024 is it might be more open. We'll see, but I just wanted to get on your knees and pray anytime soon.
All right, Coach James. That was a great Michigan fan final thought there. But
I have a final thought.
We'll see you next time. All right, George, go for it.
My final thought is this. I respect the Big Ten. I think you're at least the second best conference. And I think you have the potential to win another national title. But if you really, really want me to love the Big Ten, don't ever let USC or UCLA win anything. And I will love you like my brother.
You're not a fan of those two, I take it.
I hope they never win anything ever again.
Wow.
Oh.
Okay.
Wow.
They bailed out. They bailed out on the Pac-12. They tried to kill the conference. I hope they never ever win anything again.
Wow.
Tell us how you really feel, George.
No, that's how I really feel. And it's up to Michigan and Ohio State to make sure that never happens.
And possibly Penn State, but
Get 'em, George.
all three
Possibly
of those.
Penn State. As far as Michigan State goes, it's not about the X's and O's. You know what they say. Unless Michigan State can get a top 5 class for 5 years in a row, I don't care how good of a coach you are. You know?
He's got Tim angry, man.
Yeah, I don't think Tim appreciates what you
Yeah,
said.
Tim says them's fighting words, George. Well, Tim
I'm
is,
talking
of course...
to Tim. I'm specifically addressing Tim.
Hold on a minute. We need to have Tim come on here before.
We're wrapping. We're wrapping.
Do not lose to USC. It'll really piss me off, man. All this talk about Ohio State and Michigan. If you ever let USC beat you, I will never forgive you.
Oh, geez. Well, I mean, USC does. I hate to bring this up as a Michigan fan.
Here we go. Here we go.
USC is the only team out of those that has a 6. So they've won 6. Michigan's won 4. I'm hoping that now things are different.
Right.
I'm hoping. Right. But USC's offense is going to be really good. And the question is their defense. The question is, can they get up to that level?
I hope you eat them alive. You ever heard that song, Eat You Alive? I hope you eat them alive.
Oh, man. Tim is now saying, how about those Gators? So that's a whole nother story.
Whatever. Don't worry about Florida. We'll be fine. I hope 4 years from now, everybody's crying about why did we join the Big Ten? You know?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we'll see how it all plays out.
That's my final thought.
George, we appreciate you calling in today. I know you're a busy guy, and we thank you for coming on.
I only work 2 hours a day. Go Big Ten, beat USC. All right.
All right, George.
That's all I got.
See you later. All right. On that note, Erica, since you've been with us the longest, and thank you for being with us the longest and being on with Corey too, I'm going to let you have your final thought now, before we let you go.
I'm sitting here laughing too hard at all these last comments by George and then Tim's comeback.
They're going. We're going to need to do a whole show just on George and Tim going at it. I think that would be great for ratings.
We should bring DeReal in too. Make it a real party.
Oh, geez. Oh man. DeReal MVP. Where is he today? Has he been around today?
I think he was.
I don't know, man. That dude's everywhere. He comes and goes.
Yeah. Sorry, Buckeye. Yeah, Buckeye Mike wants to come on. Yeah, we're wrapping the show up, but I'll tell you what, come back next week. So we do this every week. And Mark usually does the 6 to 8 block. But he wasn't able to tonight. So Corey Bratta was the guest host from 6 to 8, and then I took over from 8 to 10, and I usually do and what we do in the 8 block is we have a panel. We usually do a panel like this. We have more of a party kind of free, not free for all, but kind of free for all, and we just chat about all kinds of different topics. So yeah, come on back next week. Erica, we can find you on Twitter, I know.
Yes. You can find me on Twitter, Eriquita0115 if you want to add me. I talk about Iowa football, Iowa women's basketball, dogs, travel, a little bit of everything. So if you're into that, add me and I'll add you back. And thanks for having me again tonight. Maybe next week I'll join again.
Hey, if you do, that'd be awesome.
I just don't want to drive people too crazy with all the Iowa talk, because I know that people don't like talking about Iowa sometimes. So
well, tonight, I mean, come on.
It's a Big Ten talk. Yeah.
Corey Bratta was the host. I mean, so it was going to be Iowa for at least a decent chunk of this Big Ten Live tonight. So
true.
So I'm putting your Twitter in the main thing in case anybody wants to give you a follow.
Oh, and I actually have another final ending thought with Cole. Cole, I respect you a heck of a lot, man. But you guys don't own us. You beat us once after 8 years. That's not owning anybody. Sorry to tell you.
Okay. Hey.
That's my last thought. But that said, Cole, I'm not trying to be mean, but that's the honest to God truth. So
Cole, come on, call in next week, and we'll do a no holds barred match. You and Erica can go at it. Iowa
I don't know why the
Nebraska
fans don't want to call in. Like, I seriously legit don't know. And Cole usually calls in, but I think he joined a little late. But there was one of your fellow Nebraska fans in here earlier, Cole, named Husker D, who was trying to give me a heck of a time, and they just would not call in. So, I mean, I'm sorry, I can't take it seriously if someone's trying to make a mockery and they won't, they'll talk the talk but won't walk the walk. So.
Well, George is backing you up. Everybody loves Iowa, so there you go.
Thank you, George.
We appreciate
Have a good night,
you, George.
everybody.
All right, Erica. Thanks for being on.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. All right. Argraw, any final thoughts from you?
Yeah, sure. First off, not everyone loves Iowa. I mean, the idea of me being a Penn State fan and the idea of wrestling, there's other sports, collegiate sports out there, wrestling a big one. There's a really big rivalry between the two. So I can't get too emotionally invested in Iowa, at least for that reason, if anything else. So I'll just put that right there. But we all love to listen to, the talk about Iowa. We love to talk about the other teams. That's what I was putting in the chat when I said, like the idea of like Penn State. I wasn't demanding, like you happen to be saying, let's shift gears to Penn State. I was excited not because it was Penn State, but just because it was another team apart from
Me too.
Michigan, Ohio State.
That's try. Yeah, I want to get people on who are. Tell your friends who are Illinois fans. Tell your friends who are Maryland. We had a Maryland fan on here. Michael Wheatley comes in every so often. Who's a Maryland fan.
Yeah, get on chat.
Like, come on in and call in because we take who calls in.
I was surprised. I saw someone said "Go Terps." I couldn't believe it. I'm like, hey, there's a Maryland fan in here. This
you guys have so much to say in the chat, but you don't want to get on mic and talk.
Yeah,
well, I think he was watching something that he couldn't. Yeah, so but
and that's a fair enough point. A lot of people, I get it. You're more comfortable typing something out than having it. I get it. I completely get it. But at the same time, it's the Big Ten show. That's why I threw in the comments section like, hey, let's talk about Illinois, or what's going to happen. Like, what kind of season is Fitt's going to have, that kind of thing. Just trying to get other things out there, trying to stir the pot a bit where we can spread it out and look at and talk about more Big Ten teams. That's where I'm at with it. It doesn't have to be Penn State. It could be anyone else. I like to hear the perspective from other people. So definitely, hey, don't be afraid to call in if you're rooting for another team, whether it's, Wisconsin, Minnesota, again, even Rutgers. We will accept the Rutgers calls. We want to hear what you guys have to say too, all three of you. But even so,
Rutgers. I will say this: under Schiano, they're at least a team that tries. Unlike what we had with Chris Ash and with some of the other coaches at least with Schiano, they're mentally tough teams. They contend, and they occasionally scare Michigan. So there's at least that.
Absolutely. So yeah, I guess with that's what I will leave with my final thought. Just branch out. It doesn't have to be about the same 2 or 3 teams. We've got an entire conference, and the conference is only getting bigger. Definitely look out for those other teams.
Absolutely, look out. Well, again, thanks for stopping by, our girl.
Absolutely.
All right, man. Jason Moose, still there with us? Hey. So this was a fun one tonight, huh?
Yeah, it got a little crazy, huh?
I love it. That's the best time. It gets crazy.
We had to show these delusional Ohio State fans that Michigan's still the daddy and the big. So until proven otherwise.
Well, even Mark Rogers said that Michigan is the top of the Big Ten right now, and you can't. I mean, on the field, it's clear based on the last 2 Big Ten titles and head-to-head. So if Mark Rogers is saying that, then let's be real. That's Michigan is the leader until proven otherwise on the field.
I don't have much more to say, but I will say that for everybody that's thinking that Michigan's going to fall off in recruiting, I just want to let you know that we're about to get 4-star Tatum from Texas. He's 100% to Michigan. We're about to get Childs from Maryland, the 4-star linebacker. He's 100% to Michigan. And we might even get Scott from you guys from Ohio. So,
yeah.
Hey. And Goodwin, too, from Providence Day. So, Michigan ain't going nowhere in recruiting, man. So, just be on the lookout.
Shannon Goodwin, Jordan Shipp, Marion Stewart. And those are just the 3 I have on here. You just mentioned some other good ones.
That's all I got, John.
All right,
Thanks
Jason.
for having me tonight.
Absolutely. Thanks for calling in. Go Blue.
Go Blue as always.
All right. Bye-bye. Okay. So thank you all for being part of this show tonight. Don't forget a couple of key things that we want to make sure you're doing. Please like, subscribe, tell people about this show. It's every Monday, 6 o'clock Eastern. Tell a friend. And, when you bring in a friend or you post on Facebook or whatever the case may be, you're bringing in, you could be doubling the amount of people in here. And then that's just more people that we can have great debates with as we go into May, which is going to be debate month. May is debate month on the Voice of College Football. So think of your top topics that you want to talk about on debate month. Join our Patreon, join our Discord, talk college football all the time. Go to patreon.com/MarkRogersTV. We have a great time in there. We have hangouts, we have parties, we have all kinds of things throughout the year. So definitely check that out. And we'll be doing probably some things in the next month, including asking everybody on Patreon for their advice and their feedback on how we do Voice of College Football in general. Shop the merch store. We have a merch store. Okay, if you missed my fun spiel earlier on the merch store, we got a lot of high quality products. Mark Rogers, Voice of College Football, and some other ones too. What should we call it? You got Exploring Ben and Sam, Traveling Fools, Eat 'em Dogs, and so on. You've got your mugs, you got your hoodies, you got your tote bags, you got your stickers, you got your candles, you got your yoga pants, you got your swimming trunks. Get something for your whole family, okay? TopQualityShirts.com. Mark Rogers, Voice of College Football, help support us. Amazon and Fanatics links are in the description section. So if you're shopping on Amazon or you're getting merch for your favorite college football program, there's a link for you. Click it. Takes 2 seconds. That's it. And then just do your shopping like you otherwise would. And it's going to help. It's going to send Mark Rogers a couple of bucks. And that's what we want to do because we want to keep this going. Also, don't forget that Super Chats our thing. So whether you do a super chat or you do a Venmo or you do a Cash App or a PayPal, send it in, help support the channel. Because here's the thing. We do this because we love it. But, you know, Mark, he's doing this. This is his thing. This is his business. And he brings in insight and analysis into 20, 25 different channels. And we're at near the 100,000 subscriber point across the whole network. And this has been a real passion project for him. If you can just spare a couple of bucks here and there, we appreciate you in anything that you can consider doing. On Wednesday, stay tuned for Michigan Wolverines Live. We have a special guest, the co-founder of Michigan NIL Collective, MGO Dow, is going to be stopping by and talking about NIL and talking about recruiting and how Michigan's recruiting has been the last couple weeks especially. Okay, this is a big guest, and we're very happy to have him. So please come on to the Wednesday at 5 Michigan Wolverines live show and check out the co-founder of MGO Dow. And last but not least, in less than a half an hour, USC Trojans Live. So I'm putting the link in every single one of these because we're simulcasting this on a bunch of channels. Click that, and it literally is going to take you straight to it. So you don't even have to click anywhere. Just click that link and then just let it ride until 11 o'clock and like the video and help us out because that show is a really good show. Okay, Matt Zemek is a writer at Trojans Wire at USA Today, does a fantastic job, and you always learn something about football when you watch that show. So again, thank you all so much. I'm going to read any final comments here. Thank you, Jason. Thank you, Dependent Fanatic, for being here. Thank you, Cheryl. Each team, we would love for more collaboration and for, it was great to have Corey Bratta tonight. I'd love to see some of the other hosts come on and do a Big Ten block at various points. We would love that. And until next time, as Erica says, have a nice evening, and we will see you around. Stay tuned for USC Trojans Live in like 25 minutes. Thanks, guys.